This is Target Score Weekly with Joey Slattery and Taylor Allen. Welcome to another edition of Target Score Weekly, a very special one. The Celtics heading to the final special edition of Target Score Weekly, sweeping the Indiana Pacers, the beloved team of one Taylor Allen, who had a great season. Many would say they upset the New York Knicks. Taylor, they did not upset the Boston Celtics. It was nice while it lasted, as short as it was. We didn't even have time to have an episode where we could break down the series in series because the last episode we had, they hadn't even started. And then this episode, they're already done. So I feel for you, man.
Are you done? Are you finished? Is it all out of your system now? Do you feel better?
I think so, but we'll see as this episode goes on. You know, every now and again, I just get that stroke of luck, you know, where I gotta get it off my chest. Speaking of which,
hey, that was the most competitive 4-game series in NBA history, man. The Pacers could have, some would even say should have, won at least 2 or maybe 3 of those games, but you know, sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way. And the injury luck that the Pacers were getting, you know, playing these teams, the Bucks, the Knicks, were just getting decimated by injuries. It ran out and turned its course onto them because Tyrese Halliburton ended up getting hurt. So, hey, you know, no one was expecting Indiana to make it that far. They're a young team. But we signed Pascal Siakam. He loves Indiana. He loves the Pacers. So they'll be back, man. Don't worry. You got to have some growing pains. So disappointing. Would have been nice to have won a game or 2, preferably 4. But hey, it was a fun season, and they'll be back. So whatever. So and Andrew Nembhard, good Canadian boy. He was kind of the breakout star of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So right on.
But you're done. You're done with the excuses, right? You're just accepting defeat now. Listen, I'll say this. I was surprised at how well the Pacers prepared for the Celtics without Halliburton. I thought it was going to be a lot worse, and they played really well. They had a great game plan. They put pressure on the Celtics. What I liked about the Celtics, though, and I've said this when we talk Celtics on this podcast throughout the year, was they only won the big game, or not big games, by big scores. They are not good in close games. And the thing that I liked about this is they got stronger in the fourth quarter in this series, and they were able to close out close games. And Indiana did play well, considering they didn't have their star. I did not think they were totally outmatched. There were some great games played, and the Celtics didn't play terribly either. Like, it wasn't because the Celtics were bad. I think Indiana was well prepared, but, you know, I think this was destined. I called it. If you listen to our last podcast, I called the sweep, and the sweep did happen. Also, I don't know if you can see this here, but I got a little Lucky mascot. Do you remember Kinder Surprise?
Absolutely. That's the best chocolate bar around.
So now the toys are NBA mascots, and I found out they had Boston. So I tried so hard to get it that I ended up getting the whole freaking collection.
Wow.
Spending 50-something bucks, I'm sure, on freaking Kinder Surprise toys. But when did Kinder Surprise toys get so fun? Unreal. CEBL should partner with them and get all the CEBL mascots down next. It's a good Canadian treat. Kinder Surprise not available in the States. So
it's a good thing you're married because, yeah, I mean, once women see, you know, your Kinder Surprise collection, I mean, there'd be so many, you know, women just like seriously trying to hit you up. Just wow, that's the coolest thing ever, Joey. Wow.
Yeah, they're probably thinking I'm the world's best dad too. I have no kids. In fact, Taylor, it got so out of control that I got a second lineup of almost the whole collection.
Wow.
So, yeah, it got pretty out of hand. But enough Kinder Surprise mascot talk. CEBL is now underway, and the Sea Bears are 1-1. And we had a historic home opener. We had Teddy Allen, back-to-back 40 pieces. He's averaging 40.5 points a game wearing a headband. That is a thing. And Alex Campbell, after not putting up a single point in the opener in Saskatchewan against his former team and where he calls home now in Saskatoon, comes up with the biggest shot probably of his career, at least one of the biggest shots, getting his 1,000th CEBL point, the third player to do so, the first Canadian to do so on the game-winning target score point. He's our guest today. And it was an exciting game. And we talked about this during the game. And you said, as the game ended, that this was the best game in franchise history, in their young history so far.
Absolutely. And before we get to that, I'm glad you brought up the Teddy Allen headband thing, because honestly, I was thinking like, man, the next time I see Teddy, I got to ask him like, what's up with the headband? But clearly it's working, dropping 40 pieces like it's nothing. But yeah, that second game, game one, big disappointment, right? Like they just did not look like they were all on the same page on offense, just really lacked creativity. Everyone was just kind of trying to do it by themselves, basically. And there's a flop, right?
Mhm.
Which I wasn't that surprised by. I mean, again, this is a brand new team, right? So many new players and whatever. It takes time, and training camp's only 1 week long. So whatever, they get a pass on that. But then game two, it was kind of trending in the same direction for those first 2 or 3 quarters. Is like, man, okay, like this team is still like really working out the kinks, which isn't that crazy because that game was only 48 hours later or whatever it was.
Mhm.
But that fourth quarter, they started to kind of find their stroke a little bit. But then Scarborough, punched back too, and then it kind of looked like, oh wow, well, the Sea Bears are gonna start out 0-2. Scarborough's at the line, game tied 106-106. Jackson Rowe just has to hit one free throw to win the game, and he bricks them both. And the
Right.
place is going wild. They're sensing it. Oh my goodness, that was like a 1 in a million chance of that happening. Teddy Allen brings up the ball again, double team, dishes it to the corner to Alex Campbell. They only need 1 point, but it's a 3-pointer. He says, screw it. He's feeling confident, even though he hasn't been shooting the ball that well. Drills it, hits the 1K mark, place goes nuts. I mean, the story writes itself. That was as exciting as it gets. And anyone who is on the fence about Elam ending, target score or whatever, show them that finish. And I guarantee that would change their tune pretty quickly. So Sea Bears 1-1. They very easily could have been 0-2, probably should be 0-2, but no one's going to remember that. They'll just remember the exciting finish. So there you go.
Also makes it a little nicer when you've got 10,000 people on hand, or just shy of 10,000 people in attendance. I mean, that was electric. But yeah, I think too, one thing that surprised me in the SAS game is I knew like SAS quietly put together a decent team, and then they added Jalen Harris, who's a huge star in this league, and former NBA guy with the Raptors. And I think they kind of shocked people a little bit. I think they came out and said, this is our chance to make a statement. Everybody's favoring, the Sea Bears in the West, and then Scarborough and Niagara in the East. Those are predominantly the top three teams on most power rankings and things like that. But SAS kind of showed out that game and showed that they can play, right? So I actually look forward to the next meeting, because I don't think this is in the bag. I've said this before. The league as a whole has gotten so much better this year, but that is a point. There is that like there are no passes this year. There's no games that you're guaranteed to win. Like you're going to have to really go out there, and you can take a night off. And I think that was a perfect example of that. Sometimes beginning with a loss is a blessing in disguise, right? You kind of get humbled a little bit with the preseason expectations. Then you're starting from behind. Then you come back against Scarborough, the defending champs, who were without Cat Barber as well. Can't leave that fact out. I mean, their best player is yet to report. He's still playing out in Europe. I mean, Sea Bears waiting for a couple of guys as well. Manuel Acott just signed. That's another new piece of news. Another local Winnipegger. David Mwencat is playing in the finals in Germany. I believe that starts Saturday. I think it's a best of three. So after that, he'll be joining the team. But yeah, it's but I mean, the core of the Sea Bears team's intact. And I think it was a big win against Scarborough for sure, the way they won it. And, I think with the way, the biggest narrative coming in terms of, it was a lot of positive narrative, don't get me wrong. But the one negative thing was, how is Teddy Allen going to play with this many more stars? There's only one ball to go around, so on and so forth. Well, Teddy got 240 pieces. I mean, both important too. I mean, he scored almost half the points in both games. But
It's not a
when it
good
came
thing
down
though.
to it's not. But I will.
I don't want to
I'm
see him scoring 40. Like he doesn't have
I,
to score 40 with this talent around him. I don't think that's a healthy thing. As stupid
I
as that
don't.
may sound, like I don't think
Yeah,
that's good.
I see where you're coming from. But I don't think that is a bad thing. I actually think it's a good thing, because what the team is doing is like, hey, if Teddy's feeling it, he's aggressive. We're going with the style of play. I think I'd be more frustrated if his field goal percentage was down and he was only scoring single digits, because that can happen where he gets 8, 12 points. It's, what happened in Britain. There's games where he's just not going to be on. And I think what the last play of the game particularly proved is he's not just out there to score points. He had a role player type rebound. I mean, he got a rebound at a point in the game that like teams spend big money on guys to do just that, right? Like where you have a lineup going out, we need that rebound, but it was Teddy that got the rebound, carries the ball up, draws a very weird double team where Kadre Gray comes over to come for the double, leaving Alex Campbell wide open. In his head, he's thinking, Campbell's been cold for 2 games, so I'm okay leaving this guy for the shot. Teddy's probably going to, or is probably not going to pass it anyway. And then he hits him with a nice bounce pass. Boom. Lets Campbell hit the record. To add to that wrinkle, Taylor, Teddy, if he takes the shot and hits the shot, he becomes the highest. He gets the most points in a single game solely to him at 43. He's had 42 a couple times. He shares it. It's a combined record, but he would have had it outright if he scored it. Doesn't think of that. Pass it over to Alex Campbell.
Well, there was no shot for Teddy. So let's,
Is there never not a shot for Teddy?
Well, when there's 2 guys on you, when your teammate's wide open in the corner, no, there's not a shot for you.
Exactly. But
I see
that would have been a concern. That would have been a concern going into that, is in those situations, game on the line, is he going to take it? And I think that's a play that's going to build the cohesion. And I think as long as the team is okay with him scoring 40 and other guys' points coming down, great. And when he's not playing well, that's the next test. I want to see the first Teddy game where he's not hitting anything and what his reaction is and how the team steps up. But until I see that, I'm okay with 40 pieces because he is the driver of your offense. I want to see the guy who you built the offense around excel, and he's excelled in 2 games.
Yeah, no, I get that. And in his defense, I mean, the team shot very poorly in these first 2 games. I mean, especially the home opener, like no one was hitting a 3. But and Darius Days, I mean, that was the guy that everyone's very excited about. He's off to a pretty slow start. And JOJ, friend of the program, Jared Ogungbemi-Jackson, He started out a little slow game 1, but then he really kind of found his stride in the second half in Winnipeg. But yeah, there's so many weapons on this team. Like there's so many guys that are capable of scoring 20 points a game. And I just think they'd be a much more dynamic team if they kind of did a better job getting everyone involved. The thing that I didn't like about these 2 games is, again, I mentioned it before, but they just kind of lacked creativity on offense. Like even Alex Campbell was kind of mentioning it in the interview that, you're running up the court and then it's like, oh shoot, the ball's already been shot. Yeah. Like they're not really moving the ball around. They're not really moving around much. It's really just one pass and the guy's shooting the ball. And I understand that's kind of the modern way of basketball these days. Everyone's just hucking up threes and whatever, but I'd really like to see some more ball movement. And I think sometimes they're forgetting that they have the 7-foot guy named Byron Mullins. He used to play in the NBA. I kind of like to see him a bit more involved and not just settling for threes as well. So,
you talked about Darius Days. I got some messages on Instagram after the first couple games, just asking like this Byron Mullins guy. Like I was expecting more. Like it's been a bit of a disappointment. And I'm thinking the same as you. I'm like, it just hasn't been his time yet, right? Like he hasn't been involved much. I still think he's been very effective, especially with like running into those big screens. I mean, that guy can create space for a ball handler with those screens, but using them on the roll more might be a thing. And the other thing too is you ask any player on this team and any player that's played for Mike Taylor, he's got a very hefty playbook. And I think that's part of it too shouldn't say I think it's part of it. I wonder if it's part of it is just trying to get through all these things and on the fly, it's just making sure all the pieces are connected to make that offense flow fluently. And when it does click, are we going to see what you're talking about? Because I agree with you. I think there's been some, the ball's been stagnant at times, especially in that SAS game and the beginning of that Scarborough game. But I think part of it is, again, you had 9 days before your first game. So did all the other teams. This isn't, like only to the Sea Bears. But you have a lot to learn. And the thing is you mentioned this last podcast. I think it was last podcast. But you said last year they had a hot start, right? Sea Bears did everything right in the first few games. And then as players started coming back from the other teams and there's a little bit of tape on them, they started to falter and be a little more of a 500 team going into the playoffs and then lost back-to-back games to Edmonton. Is it the opposite this year? You start off with a loss. You get lucky to an extent in the second game to walk out 1-1. And then you got a week between games, which I think is a little weird this early in the season, but then you have a week to let it all fester and make the adjustments going into a game against Ottawa, another team that's down, I think, 5 players still not to come out. I think they had like 3 starting players against Edmonton that will not be starters this year. So yeah, like I think this Ottawa game is going to be a huge test to see just how many adjustments they made, how that cohesion has gone. And also just, is this something that has to be worked out or is this a bigger problem?
Well, before we get to Alex Campbell, though, I think we need to devote some time talking about their latest signing, Emmanuel Acott. I mean, that's again, like you said, another Winnipeg guy. I think when this team was being built, a lot of people were saying like, okay, like when is Emmanuel going to sign? Is he going to sign? And sure enough, he's on his way. So really cool. You know, obviously this team is really kind of made it clear how important it is to build this team with local talent, which is awesome. And they're not just building it with local talent just to say they are and whatever, because it's a good PR move. Like these guys can play. And Emmanuel, I mean, really, he was the biggest prospect to come out of Manitoba since Todd McCulloch back in the day.
Yeah.
Like there was
Where do you
talk.
play? Like he's Boise State, Western Kentucky. Was it Arizona he started
Arizona,
at?
he started out at, yeah. So he's had a lot of stops in his NCAA career, but there was a time early on in his career where people were talking about him as a potential NBA guy, and he did work out for the Indiana Pacers. You know, in his
How
draft
nice
year,
would that have been for you?
would have been kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's coming off of a pro year playing in Netherlands. He played in the CEBL last year with Ottawa and whatnot, so has some experience there. And he's a 6'8". He's a big guy, lanky guy, super athletic, versatile wing who can handle the ball, shoot the ball, play good defense. So that's going to be a fun piece to add to this team, you know, probably coming off of the bench just because there's so many veterans and so much talent on this team. So, but yeah, that's going to be a really nice piece to kind of help round out this team. But I mean, he's going to need some time to kind of fit in as well because he's coming in late. But yeah, just another cool move, and it'll be exciting to see another hometown kid on the floor.
Okay, you know more about him and would have seen him play more. I wasn't in Winnipeg like for his career before he went off to college. I've only seen some highlights and hype tapes, really. But when the signing was made, I did get a few messages, you know, DMs of just people kind of questioning it, just like where does he fit in, and you know, like what's the purpose of this guy? Because looking at it, it's just you know, it's another. I didn't know it was a hole that needed to be plugged. Put it that way. And one of the things I noticed is he's a big guy. Like, you know, he looks like he's big and strong. And part of me wonders too, you know, you just talked about Darius having a slow start. Is bringing in a guy like this not only help the local aspect of things and beefing up your lineup, but does this give someone to kind of push a guy like Darius a little bit in practice? A guy that is more similar to the guys Darius will play in a game situation, and vice versa. Also allows you to keep that big man out if you need, you know, Darius. Because I've also heard this guy is a bit of a Swiss Army knife. Like he could do a little bit of everything. But it's seems to me that it was out of nowhere. I didn't know the signing was coming. It's a late signing. It's a cool signing. This is a guy that's had a lot of promise. He's played at high levels. He kind of reminds me story wise a little bit like a Teddy Allen, right? All this, like, except he had the promise but didn't go to the NBA. Does he come here and have a similar outing like Teddy, where it's, you know, because Mike Taylor likes taking chances on guys that have been there, done that, or should have been there, done that. You know, even bringing a guy like Byron who has the experience and still wants to get the best out of him. So I'm wondering, does Emmanuel come in here and have a Teddy like experience where it allows him to exploit what he does well, get him back on the radar, so to speak, and playing at home? There's nothing I don't think that would beat that, you know, having the opportunity to play in your hometown in front of this kind of a crowd to kind of get you back into the conversation, so to speak. Am I wrong there? This is probably more in your court.
Well, I certainly, and this isn't a knock on Emmanuel, but I certainly wouldn't put him in the Teddy Allen conversation. He can't score.
And I don't mean like skill. Like I'm not trying to say he's going to come in here and score 40 points, but it's just like, you know, Teddy Allen was a guy who was overlooked by the time he would have went to the NBA, despite having a strong collegiate career and, you know, the big game against UConn, which was, you know, the highlight of that whole thing. But in terms of the expectation, as you said, he was an NBA conversation guy, transferred a couple times
early on in his career,
right? Then he transfers and kind of fades out. I mean, I've seen this before, even in hockey, right? Where you've had guys that go to junior and they're, you know, top picks in the major junior leagues, and then they kind of fizzle out and they get drafted later than they probably would have expected when they get to the NHL. And some of them fade out, might play a dozen or so games in the NHL, and then they go to play, you know, KHL, Swiss, or whatever. Still have great careers, just not the way it would have panned out. So that's kind of where I draw the comparison of just like, here's a guy that still has plenty of career left, plenty of time to develop. But I wonder if he's been written off, you know, at the NBA level.
I think the best case scenario for him is a Jared Ogungbemi-Jackson type career, which is an awesome career, you know, playing a decade, if not more, overseas, making good money doing that. I mean, yeah, everyone grows up wanting to play in the NBA, but only what 0.00001% of basketball players get to do that. So, and Emmanuel, I mean, he was really hyped in high school, and he went to an academy down south, and really a highly touted prospect. And you know, very very rarely do those guys meet that expectation. It's almost unfair to put that on such a young player. And then he goes to Arizona, which is a massive D1 program. They go to March Madness. DeAndre Ayton was his teammate for a year. But then they have the huge scandal, and that program falls to pieces because their coach and the program was, giving guys money to go to school and whatnot. DeAndre Ayton being the main person in that. So Emmanuel transfers from there, ends up at Boise State, which is not a basketball school. That is a football school. They have done basically nothing in basketball. But he helps turn that program around, gets them to March Madness. They end up losing round one. But yeah, I mean, someone the other day was just saying to me, like, well, this guy's been on so many college teams. Like, what does that mean? It's like, well, that's just the day that we're living in, right? Or the age that we're living in is with the transfer portal. Emmanuel is one of the first players to really take advantage of that. Like, hey, you can transfer somewhere and not have to sit out or whatever. And guys are doing that, right? And the days of people playing their 4 or 5 years at one school are gone, which I don't like as a basketball fan, because every year it's like guys are all over the place and it's a total gong show. Even though they had a good spot on a good team, they'll still enter the transfer portal just to see what their options are, and they'll get wined and dined and end up at a different school. But yeah, long story short, though, with the Emmanuel, I think he's a hell of a player. I don't know where he's going to fit in on this team, but I think anytime you could add a 6'8" Canadian guy who can play defense and dribble and shoot, you'd be crazy not to, even if you don't have an obvious need for that.
Yeah. And I think that's like, again, that was another part, is just the school trajectory in terms of going around, like, similar to Teddy, who played at a few schools. But yeah, and just to put a cap on the transfer portal, at first I was like, interesting. And I, kind of giving the benefit of the doubt that it'd be used properly, right? Like, you are in a bad situation. I need to get out. But I think it's been abused a lot too. And it is hard to follow along when, like, it's almost as busy in the off season because kids are transferring here, there, and everywhere, as opposed to seeing, we had the one and done era, and now we've got the transfer portal era. So it'll be interesting to see how it settles. I think we're at still trying to figure that out, but nonetheless, Seabears, I know we'll be excited to have him. Like you said, not going to say no to an elite 6'8" guy from Canada, let alone Winnipeg. So another big signing for the Seabears, added depth. That's only going to add to the stars they already have. We have Alex Campbell on the show today, and he is now a CEBL record holder, capping off one of the most exciting games. Early candidate for CEBL Game of the Year this year, I'd say. And he's on the podcast with us right now. We've got Alex, Mr. 1000, joining us on the podcast today. First off, how does that feel, Alex? You get your first game in the books at home in Winnipeg, and you create history being the first Canadian to get 1,000 points in the CEBL.
Yeah, I couldn't wrote it up better. You know what I mean? Like a better script, because to have a goose egg at home, Saskatoon, first game, and then only for it to come out in this fashion, the first game in Winnipeg. Yeah, surreal moment, definitely memorable moment, and yeah, it was definitely a good one.
What's going on through your mind, like, after that first game? Like, you put up the goose egg, you're playing, you make Saskatoon home in the winter. You're a coach with the University of Saskatchewan, an assistant there. So you go home, the excitement's there. You've got some family, you've got some friends, you've got some kids that you coach watching the game, and not being able to get a point, knowing you're just 6 away from that record. I mean, how does that play with you mentally?
I mean, it does, you know what I mean? But I like to think I'm mentally tough, and it's one of those things where you just got to keep it pushing. That was my first game in 8 months, you know what I mean? And obviously training camp is training camp. I had a good training camp, but there's no real experience in the game, you know what I mean? And so that was my first time getting out there, just getting my feel back for the game. And then I only put up 5 shots, granted. I wasn't aggressive enough, and things happened. It was a tough pill to swallow that night, but then that's the thing I love about the CBL. It's a quick turnaround, and we were able to get it done. I still didn't shoot well that night either, but everything happens for a reason. So it just feels good to get off the snide and be able to play without that that whole 1,000 point narrative in the background. You know what I mean?
Alex, you've obviously hit some big shots in your career, some target time shots like that before. But where does that specific shot rank in your career, do you think? I mean, your first home game with the Sea Bears, game tied 106, drill the three for the win, the 1000K mark as well. So much going into that shot. Just where does that shot rank in your career, do you think?
It's up there. It's up there for sure. And shout out to Sea Bears Nation and making it even more special. You know what I mean? Like the way that adrenaline, just that feel. Because like when Jackson Rowe misses the free throws, brother, I'm telling you, like the way it got loud and stuff like that. I sprinted to the corner like no time other. You know what I mean? And it was just more so because TA just hit the one prior, I think. So we're all expecting TA to come down and make the play. But he made the right pass. Cadre stepped up, helped strong side corner, which we never do. And I was able to make the shot. So it was just an electric feeling in the arena, and then obviously through me, you know what I mean. I'm just there to reap the benefits of it. You know, shout out to Sea Bears Nation.
Yeah, that had to
Did you
be
think
tough
it
for
was
Jackson, man. Like to get on the bus out or the plane after that, missing those free throws. Sorry, Taylor.
Yeah, did you think it was over when he steps up to the free throw line? I mean, he just has to make 1 out of 2. And I know the crowd is rocking and stuff, pressure was on him, but like what was going through your head when he's at the line and he just has to make 1?
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, this Elam ending shit, like, you know, just to end on a free throw. That's the only one, like the part I disagree with Elam, but obviously there's no way around it, right? The game's, you know, if that's how the game finishes, that's how the game finishes. But that's what was going through my head, just like, damn, like this is how we lost, like, you know what I mean? And then he missed the first, and I'm like, okay, hold on, wait a minute. You know, Jackson Rowe's a good player, you know, and it's not like he's a bad player, or like, you know what I mean? He's played places, and so for him to just smoke both of them it had to have been God's God's will, and then for it to pan out like that, like obviously I'm grateful for that. But yeah, that's what was going through my mind when he was on the line, just like this is how we're gonna go out, like, and so yeah, that was it.
So, how much does a crowd play a factor in that? I mean, we talk about all the time how how intense the crowd is in Winnipeg. Teams come in here, they're preparing for it. So, I mean, how does that affect like in that situation? Because we always talk about how much we don't want to see the game end on a foul shot, but in this case, the chance to end the game on the foul shot ended up being the entertainment value.
Right. And so yeah, obviously from the fans' perspective or the fans' point of view, obviously it could add a little bit more entertainment. But as the players, you're just like, you don't want the game to end on a foul shot. You know what I mean? Even on the, I mean, I guess if you're the winning team, it doesn't really matter. But as the opposing team, those ones are the gut punches. You know what I mean? When it's just like you kind of sick at the refs, you're mad at the refs for even making that call. You know what I mean? Because if they reviewed it, and I'm pretty sure if we had a review, Mike Taylor would have reviewed it because they didn't call the foul on me. They called it on Simon, I think.
Yeah.
Simon was and he's driving, and Simon didn't have his hands in there. So there was a couple questionable calls, but that's the nature of the game. You know what I mean? And then just to have the fans now get that loud at that particular moment was just insane. Like I didn't know it can get that loud in there, to be honest. And so that was my first game, and obviously I expect nothing short on Saturday.
So, like in that play story, Taylor, I just want to expand on that. But you look at that foul shot. The biggest narrative coming into this season with all the new players and kind of the elevated stardom, I guess, on the team, players that have established themselves, have names in this league come in, and complimenting Teddy, and they talked about how this is going to be better because Teddy's going to get his shots easier and things like that. But the big worry was, is there enough ball to go around? Now Teddy has back-to-back 40-point games. But in this process, what does that play even mean for some of the new players playing with Teddy for the first time? Because the player that tracks down the rebound on that second missed foul shot is Teddy, who carries it up, draws the double team, and then finds you in the corner. And as you said, you weren't shooting the ball very well. It's not like you were, hitting threes throughout the last 2 games, right? But having that trust to throw it to you, knowing that if he hits that, he has the single game record for most games in a game, most points in a game, rather, at 43. And I think he has 42, and he holds that with somebody 2 times over. But he gives it to you and you hit that milestone. and the celebration afterwards. I mean, what kind of how does that play help team cohesion and maybe just kind of the understanding that maybe this can work? Maybe, Teddy can get his touches, but we know that when it comes down to it, he's going to make the right play.
Oh, absolutely. So obviously coming here, you've been on the other side of the spectrum. I have, where it was like we're playing against Teddy Allen, and he is, believe it or not, like he's capable of giving up the ball. You know what I mean? But why if the boy is scoring 40? You see what I'm saying? We kind of relish and we kind of encourage him to stay aggressive. You know what I mean? And by him staying aggressive, stuff like that happened. The end of the play where guys just help out from the corner. Like this is a general rule. You never help strong side. There's not a lot of systems that allow you to help strong side. But Cadre Gray, if I'm not mistaken, was guarding me. He seen Teddy put pressure on the rim. He was going downhill, and it was like natural for him to step up. And so I think it's going to take some time, obviously, but I think the pieces that Mike Taylor and them brought in will allow Teddy to still be aggressive, but then when he has to de facto, he has guys now that can make the plays along with him, whether it be Jared or me or dump down to Byron or Darius. Like there's a little bit more, I think, options, obviously with Simon still being in there, Shane and Chad and stuff like that. So I think the team is well-rounded, and we're not even whole yet. We still got David Mooncat and Emmanuel Acott soon arriving. So I think they did a great job of surrounding Teddy with a lot of players and Mason that understand that Teddy is going to be A1, but the guys that will be ready to make plays off the catch. And you've seen that there in the last play last Friday.
Alex, just how hard is it to hit the ground running in this league, especially when you're on a team like this year's team that has so many new pieces? Training camps 1 week long. You guys go to Saskatchewan. On paper, everyone's looking at the Sea Bears team. Wow, this team's stacked. And in Saskatchewan, there was some obvious growing pains in that game, right? Guys, playing with each other for the first time. And then the last game in Winnipeg, you guys won. But even that game, there was some stretches where it's like, okay, this team's still figuring things out. So if you just talk about how hard it is to really, it doesn't matter how much talent there is. It takes a while for things to kind of figure themselves out, kind of thing. You just talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. Like you see it in throughout the NBA. You see it on a lot of teams. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you have that much talent, it's going to take some time to kind of find the cohesion and see where everything fits, because there's only one basketball at the end of the day, right? And so, some guys have to take a step back. Me, myself, I don't mind taking that step back, fitting into that role where, just play 3-and-D, rebound. But obviously, I feel like there's times where I'm going to need to be aggressive, and I'm ready for that. I think it's just game two. It's going to take some time, as we said, and we're not expecting Teddy to go out and score 40 every game. You know what I mean? But when he has it going, and he's one of those guys, green light guys. So if he's pulling up for 30 feet or whatever, you just got to live with it, because half the time it goes in. You know what I mean? And so I think just a little bit of that. I haven't personally played with a player like that dynamic, and I know it's adjustment for everyone. So I think that's a little bit what you're seeing now. Even Darius Days, like guys like that, like to play with that, sometimes you got to live with. You're running down, and all of a sudden the shot's going up, and it's like, oh, like, you feel me? So a lot of stuff like that is going to take time, and we've been having a great week of practice. We watched a lot of film together, and as I said, we're encouraging Teddy to be Teddy. We're here to fit around him. We seen him do it last year, and they were successful. So why change it if it's not broken?
I like that you brought that up. The weird thing is you have, two tight games. There's one game or one day between games. You start in Saskatchewan, then you're back home, you play the home opener, have arguably the biggest, most exciting game in franchise history to date. And then you have a week off. That was Friday. Your next game is this following Saturday, the next week against Ottawa. I mean, is that a blessing in the sense to have the extra time to practice, or after a win like that, do you kind of want to just keep going and keep playing and build on the momentum? Because it felt like as the game went on, you were starting to feel that cohesion a little bit.
Yeah, and that's just the beauty of the league and the nature of the league. You got to learn on the fly, and it's just like we were blessed to have this week, but at the same time, you know what I mean. To think about it, if we had a game, say the Monday or the Tuesday, just to ride the momentum, would have probably been good for us as well. But We'll see. Mike Taylor, this is not his first rodeo, and um, he kind of designed his same practice week as that same gap. Every team has like a gap during the summer. And I remember in Vancouver that one year we did kind of similar stuff. We got rested yesterday, had a little intra-squad scrimmage, so it's not like we're just chilling. We're definitely ramping up and um, just diving into Ottawa Scout now. That was last week. It happened. It was great. We were able to enjoy it, but now it's just like Ottawa. You know what I mean? And so um, whether it be a blessing or a curse, like I don't know, but I mean we'll see. We're ready.
Alex, why did you want to come to Winnipeg?
It's quite simple. Like that the atmosphere. I played here last year, as a visiting team, and I see now uh how much energy is in the building, and so that's what we play for, right? It's moments like what happened last Friday, and the mere fact that Mike Taylor was kind of encouraging that all throughout. Even last season, it was kind of pointing out, like, this is a good fit for you, Lex. This is a good fit. You should come onto this side. And um, I always said, like, I was always open to it. And Shane, Chad, these are guys I won championships with back in Saskatchewan. They vouched and said it's a great situation. So it was just a hand in glove fit. I think my stay in Vancouver was kind of, running out. And I believe it was the right decision at the right time, to be honest with you.
You have the unique vantage point, and I don't know how much you take this in as a player when you're playing, but you were at both home openers, but you had it on both sides of the spectrum. Last year, you were here at the inaugural game as the opponent, and then this year, you're on the home team for this. I mean, obviously, the difference, being cheered against and cheered for would be the big one, but how did the atmosphere, I think, differ from last year in the inaugural game to this year with expectations?
I think, it was definitely the same electric feel, but obviously being on this side of the fence with the winning guys felt way better for sure. And just having the crowd get behind you, you know what I mean? Whether the crowd is cheering against you, that kind of motivates me too as the opposing team. You know what I mean? Coming into Canada Life Center, it's like just that atmosphere, as you said, it's like kind of that NCAA feel. Like it's rowdy. It's chat. Fans are chirping. Um, you can't hear your point guard call the play. Like that's all the stuff we play for. You know what I mean? So playing for the winning team versus playing with the opposing team, I think it's just more so like you have the fans behind you. You know why they're making noise. You see what I'm saying? And stuff like that. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I'm happy to be here, and I just encourage fans to keep coming out, because the more you guys, make noise and cheer for us, I think that it's just natural. The better you play, to be honest.
You're a day one guy in this league. Started with Saskatchewan, won the first ever championship. Did you ever think that, this many years later that you'd be still in this league and reaching an incredible milestone of being the first Canadian player to hit 1,000 points? And did you get to keep the ball too, by the way, after the shot? Did you get to keep that? Or how did that play out?
I don't know where the ball went, brother. I think I hit the shot and it was just like, yeah, I don't know what was going on, but it's just a frenzy, right? But yeah, that's a great question. Game ball, but yeah, no, it was amazing feel, and just being here from day one meant a lot. It did mean a lot. It's been a long time coming, and it just shows that like longevity. If you can take care of your body and maintain your health in certain ways, then you can play for as long as the game will allow you to, right? And so now that I'm coaching and stuff like that in the off season, it's just about balance and staying ready, so you don't have to get ready. I know that, you know what I mean? I'm a little rusty, shaking off a little rust, but at the same time, I know I can still go and compete at this level with these guys. And it definitely means a lot. And I'm still chasing, though. The thousands, a thousand is cute, but you know what I mean? I'm still trying to get one more of those things. You see what I'm saying? And that's the main goal for in our locker room for sure.
Well, even just the opportunity to do that. I mean, you've really been able to carve a career at home in Canada. I mean, that was something that when you were in high school was not a thing, right? I mean, that wasn't even an option. So, you know, when you talk about the meaning of hitting 1,000 points, but to do it as a Canadian in a Canadian league that, you know, has now been around for more than half a decade, you know, even beyond what it means to you, I mean, what do you think this means to Canadian basketball as a whole for, you know, out of how many thousands of kids are at Canada Life Center that night watching you achieve that feat? Now we're going to go to the basketball court thinking, yeah, NBA, but also CEBL. I could do that with the Sea Bears and hit 1,000 points.
Absolutely, brother. And so I started a little initiative in SAS called Camp Campbell, and so through that initiative is like that's kind of I want to kind of be living proof in real time to that. Like, you know, I never went to the States at all. I went for a few AAU tournaments and stuff, but you don't have to take that route to be successful in this game. And I think CBL has done a great job, amazing job of getting better every year. So I can only imagine right now we're in year 6. I only can imagine year 10 the opportunities these kids will have, whether it be making more money and there's more teams in new markets. So traveling, seeing Canada, kids that have been stuck in Toronto, inner city kids, and now all of a sudden they get a chance to travel Canada, like all these things. And um, it's just great to be one of the pioneers to kind of lead that, you know what I mean, and see it come into fruition. And so that 1,000 points, I'm not saying it didn't mean anything at all. It means a lot, but I think just the way my mentality works is that like I want it's like what's next, like you know what I mean. And so what's next is championship. We're thinking championship. There's a lot of guys in this locker room that don't have championships, and I think Mike Taylor, you know, he harps on this all the time. He brought a veteran group this year to put around Teddy Allen because he can see. I think he sees that too as well. Like in terms of you want kind of guys who've been there before to take us over the hump. Last year, Sea Bears did amazing. They had an amazing season. They just kind of ran out of gas at the end there, and I think now with the veteran presence of like say a Jared or a Byron will just help us get all the way there. You know what I mean? And so to answer your question, it does mean a lot to be there from the beginning, but uh, and I hope that the kids that are coming up can see it. This youth sports kids can see it, and hopefully it just puts an extra battery in their back in order to get better and reach their goals. You know what I mean?
What's it like being on a team with so many Winnipeg guys? And another one is on his way, Emmanuel Acott. They must be talking about, you know, honey dill sauce and porridge and Maine and all these Winnipeg references, Chris Jericho, whatever. It must be just nonstop Winnipeg talk. You non-Winnipeggers must be sick of it.
It's crazy that you say that because they gave me a little care package and there was honey dill sauce, and
Nice.
I'm like, what is this? You know what I mean? Like I never even heard of this, but it is good. It is good. I have that on my sandwiches all the time. But feels good, man. Feels good. I knew a couple of Winnipeggers before. Justice Elaine, he's not with us now, but he was out there in Sask with us actually in 2019. So I got a great relationship with him. That's my brother. A couple of guys, Hudson, Isaac, a couple of guys I just know from Winnipeg, but then also just having the Chads and the Sean's and all, you know what I mean? All these guys, it makes Winnipeg a little bit transitioning easier because they know the city, they know kind of where to go or not to go, the things to do, and just the culture in general. They already knew it. They're sitting back like, yeah, that's Winnipeg for you. You know what I mean? And we're here sitting there saying this is a crazy experience. You know what I mean? The fans, they love the sports and all that stuff where they're just kind of accustomed to it. And Simon and all these boys. So yeah, it feels good to have a lot of peggers on the squad.
So, Alex, before we get to target time, just want to ask about your coaching. You mentioned your initiative in Saskatoon working with kids, but you're also an assistant coach on Jamie Campbell's staff at the University of Saskatchewan for the men's team. What led to your decision to set up shop and make Saskatoon home and pursue coaching while you're still playing? And how does the coaching help you as a player?
So yeah, no, I get this question asked all the time where it's just like, how does a guy from Brampton end up in Saskatoon? Like, and I always say it's that one girl. You know what I mean? I went out in 2019, met my fiance Kendra, and I was still going overseas, kind of in and out, back and forth, and then COVID happened. And so instead of going back to Brampton, Toronto area, then I came back to Saskatoon, and I was kind of like quarantining and doing all that stuff there. And then after that summer, I didn't play the bubble, the CEBL bubble, and I just kicked it out in Saskatoon. We went to Finland in that September. Found out we were pregnant. Did the whole 8 months out there, and then came back, had my son, and then basically that's the year I went out to Vancouver. And so, to answer your question, it was just more so just, I met I met my wife, you know what I mean, and so things happened, and I had to adjust, and just slowly but surely as I grew up, is just now all of a sudden, I'm a family man of me, my stepdaughter London, and my son Saints, and just how we're kind of rocking out. So it's just about adjusting, and um, I don't regret it for the world. You know what I mean? I have my beautiful son now, my beautiful family, which I'm grateful for, and that's kind of what led me in Sask. And then just kind of looking at it, it made no sense to kind of just uproot the whole family back to Toronto area, GTA. So it was more so just like, all right, how can I make this work here? And then simultaneously at the same time, Jamie Campbell was getting hired. I reached out to him through a friend named Murphy Bernatowski. He's the one that kind of linked the two. Jamie said he knew of me from my playing days at Windsor. And so it was a hand and glove fit. He just, we kind of took to each other right away. And shout out to Jamie Campbell. That's my brother. To answer your second question, how does you say coaching help me?
Yeah.
I think it's just seeing the game through a different lens. Like I see it through both ends of the spectrum. So it helps me be an extension to Mike Taylor on the floor, just in terms of, play calling and kind of getting the guys in line, and then getting our ducks in order and stuff like that. I think that helped me become a captain material. You know what I mean? Just having that coaching experience in the back end. And then although I'm not a point guard, it definitely helps me be like a little bit of a floor general out there, just kind of dictating and telling guys when and where, when we're doing things. And I think our team's going to benefit from it as well. Just having that experience out there, as well as Jared and Byron, as I said, and just to help guys like Teddy, Darius, the younger guys, just kind of adjust on the fly. They're going to do their thing regardless. They have their job, put the ball in the rim. And the rest of us kind of do the dirty work, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, you and I are both from Ontario. I lived in Toronto for a bit. I can say Saskatoon is a lot more affordable, as is Winnipeg.
Exactly.
Maybe not Vancouver,
but
it's
one of those lessons, more things now. I don't care about the party and stuff. Show me the cheap real estate.
All right, ready for target time?
Yes, sir.
What do you say, Taylor? Should we do it?
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
This is target time. It is anything but rapid fire, but we like to pretend it is, and we kind of just go by that motto. But it's slow. Taylor, I asked the last question. Would you like to kick this one off?
Yeah, sure. So since we were just talking about coaching, Alex, which of your current teammates would make the best head coach, do you think?
Mason Borsier.
Good call. I like that.
Yeah,
why Mason?
I can see it.
He's a stand-up guy. He knows the game well, and he's one of the younger guys too. He's I forget. Is he 98 or 97, whatever he is? He's like an old soul, and I think he would make just a great coach. He knows the game. He's an excellent old guy. He watches a lot of film with us, so I would say Mason would make the best head coach.
He was a great guest on this podcast too. So if you haven't listened to that episode, make sure you go check it out. We talked to him a little earlier in the season after he signed. All right. So we're just coming off. I think we're coming off. Might still be happening. I'm not sure. But it was a big deal for a while, the Kendrick Lamar Drake diss tracks. So which teammate would put out the best diss track on the Sea Bears?
Yeah, Teddy Allen.
Teddy got the chirps going?
Teddy got the chirps going, he got the swag going, he got everything going. So I'm gonna put Teddy in the booth, and I think he would deliver the best diss track for sure.
Keep an eye out for it. The Teddy Allen diss track coming to Spotify near you.
Kobe, LeBron, Michael Jordan. Start one, bench one, cut one.
It's tough. It's tough. It's so tough. But you gotta go Jordan. You gotta go LeBron. Rest in peace, Kobe. You know how it goes.
Oh, you got to cut Kobe. Okay. Okay.
What is it? Take off the bench, or is it cut?
One guy off the bench, yeah, and then one guy gets cut.
So I get Bronze off the bench, and the rest you can fill it in stuff.
You know what, Taylor? Had Kobe played for the Celtics, he probably would have reversed LeBron and Kobe, but he had to be a Laker. So, all right. You just mentioned you have a young family. You've got your son and stepdaughter. So, which teammate would be the most trustworthy babysitter if you and your fiance were taking a night out?
Ooh. That is a tough one. Oh my gosh, I wouldn't trust none of these boys. But if I had to, that's a great question. I'd probably go Simon.
The young buck.
Simon,
Okay.
Pretty chill guy. You know, he's not really gonna get into anything. Yeah, Simon Hildebrand.
And you know what? If it gets overwhelming, he lives here. He's got family nearby. You can just call his folks and be like, "Hey, man, I need a little bit of help." Yeah, because you're not passing up. I mean, your fiance's here. You're going on date night. You want to go try, the best honey dill sauce in town. Maybe have a glass of wine, hit up the forks. Got to get Simon Hildebrand on the horn and make sure that he can make sure the kids are all right, and possibly with help from his parents.
Call him. Yeah.
So the game is tied 106. The free throw shooter just has to make one free throw to win the game. You could choose any shooter, anyone you want. Who are you picking and why?
On the team?
No, anywhere, like NBA or CEBL, if you want to go that route too. But anyone. Who would you pick?
So I'll give you two. If it's CEBL, I'm gonna put myself on the line. I eat up the pressure. I love that. It's either me or Jared I'd put on the line for sure. Jared, I think that boy shoots a good 90% from the line. I believe so. And then the NBA, I'll just put Steph. I'd put Steph. It's no brainer. Yeah, I'll put my house on that for sure.
Over Iguodala though?
Right.
I don't know. Some people would pick Iguodala over Steph, so I don't know.
No offense. Not a chance.
Okay, earlier in the podcast, you talked about the Winnipeggers and how much it's helped with your transition. So, who has been the designated Winnipeg tour guide, or the best one?
My guy Chad P. Chad P's been doing an amazing job of telling the boys the spots and putting us on game, the restaurants and stuff like that. So I would say Chad P has been super helpful in that department.
We've asked that a couple times even last season, and he is Mr. Winnipeg, and I'm not surprised by that answer. I was just wondering if maybe one of the young bucks came in and said, "Well, Chad, there's new spots that I got to show you," but Chad's all in, man. He knows this city inside and out.
Chad's the guy, man.
All right.
So for those that don't know, I think Saskatoon is like one of the most underrated cities in the country. Regina, not so much, but Saskatoon is a very nice city, lots to do. They call it the Paris of the Prairies for a reason, the nice river that flows through the city and all the bridges and whatever. So Alex, if you were a tour guide of Saskatoon for a day, what's the itinerary? Where are people going to eat? What would you recommend someone do in a day in Saskatoon?
So I'd probably hit up OEB or one of them. I know OEB is kind of everywhere, but I love me some OEB. Start the day. Stoked is pretty cool place. That's like go-karting and it's laser tag. All that stuff is in there. It's one of those places where you can go there as an adult. There's bowling in there. You can go there as an adult and bring your kids as well, and everyone can enjoy. There's different stuff to do in there. I think they actually rented out for New Year's and had a big old party in there. So Stoked Sask is a pretty lit place. Then there's a Cactus Club downtown. It's just pretty smooth vibes. I usually go there for aesthetic reasons, and you know what I mean. Just it's a pretty chill, pretty cool vibe. So. Sask is one of those less is more places. I believe I agree, brother. I think it's pretty underrated, but at the same time, there's not a lot going on. If you're looking for a little nightlife, Penrose is there. In the night market, those are little night bars and stuff. You can have a good time there. But besides that, yeah, there isn't really anything like any tourist attractions or anything like that. Not that I know of, at least. This is the longest I ever spent out in Sask this year. So that's, that was a experience. And just watch out for the winner. That's all I can really say. Frigid winners. But other than that, Sask is love. I think I see myself being there for at least the next 6 to 8 years,
Nice.
Right
hating on Regina, but Regina has the OG Leopold's Tavern, which have exploded across Western Canada.
And has a Chuck E. Cheese, which we no longer have. So
hey, I lived in Regina for a year. They got a lot of those restaurants where I was like, how is this here? Doesn't make sense. Also missed out we were brought to you by Tourism Saskatchewan and Saskatoon, but maybe we could hit them up as a sponsor now. There we go. Okay, so who on the team would cook, or is who on the team would be the best to cook a pregame meal?
Byron.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has some stuff going on. He be chefing it up a bit. So shout out to Byron Mullins.
Have you had any, because you guys are all living in close quarters, have you tried any of the guys cooking or anything yet? No.
But
don't trust it, eh? You don't trust it.
It looked good from the video still. So
well, maybe after your next game winner, he can make you a steak or something. You can hit him up. So
chef me up a T-bone, eh?
There you go. Good plan. I like asking this question to Canadian guys. So if you could build your all-time Canadian starting five, the best lineup Canada could produce, current guys, past guys, whatever, who would make your cut?
Ooh. That's tough. I'd put Xavier Rayton-Mays in there.
Okay.
Probably put him at the 2. Put Caleb Agata in there. Those are my guys. Caleb would have to make that, because I think he hopped in the league, got a ring, and hopped out the league. So you know what I mean. That's pretty elite.
It's efficient.
That's pretty efficient. It's a way to get it done for sure. I'll put myself in there. So that's gonna cover the guards. At the 4, Canadians. I have to put Simi, maybe.
Oh yeah, she too.
He's a great Canadian big. And at the center. We'll go all small ball lineup. I'm gonna put Jordan Baker. I'm gonna put my boy Biggs.
Oh, okay, nice.
So you got Biggs, Simi, me, Xavier, and Caleb.
Nice. Okay.
It's probably somebody I'm missing out, more likely, but that's what I'm rocking with right now at the top of my head.
Well,
I like it.
Baker Stingers had a big win last night against Ottawa too. So all right. Okay. You know Mike Taylor really well. You've played with him in Vancouver. You've now come to Winnipeg to play for him. Now, for whatever reason, Mike Taylor just comes into practice and says, I'm done. I'm done with coaching. I'm done with basketball completely.
Whoa.
All right. So Mike Taylor is done. Mike Taylor is then most likely to leave basketball and coaching for what?
If it's not basketball, I'm going to say it's baseball, because his sons, they're all over that. I still get videos of, his sons leaving baseball practice and stuff like that. So I think he would just become a baseball dad for sure.
See, I thought maybe he'd run for public office or something like that, because he's been such a great voice for the Sea Bears, an ambassador for the Sea Bears. So I was like, I can see him maybe going into politics, but I was like, maybe he's got plumbing. He's great at that, or mechanic, or he's a great writer. But okay, baseball dad, I can take that. All right.
Yeah, that's one thing about Mike T. He's big on family, and I think that's why we connected too, because there's a couple jobs he said he sacrificed just so he can stay home with family, and that's why he's so grateful for the CEBL, because it allows him to kind of stay home during, you see what I'm saying, the winter season, and then come out here in the summer and get his work in. So We connected on that level at a very young or at a very early stage. As soon as I met him, he's just like, I appreciate that you have family. We're gonna help you out here in Vancouver and bring out your family and all that. So he was tremendous help. So I think, yeah, he would do something still close to home, and I know his boys play baseball, so
that's awesome.
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. Do you have any more questions, Taylor?
I think I have one more. Right, I always lose track when we're doing this. I should probably write them down, make it easier. But we'll end with this one. Same question to you, Alex. If you couldn't be playing basketball and coaching basketball, Alex Campbell would be doing what for a career?
It's tough. I always wanted to look into real estate, but realistically, I'd probably be in the booth. You know, I have I have an album on Apple Music. You know, fun fact. So you know what I mean. I'd probably follow that or pursue that dream of being a rapper.
So we're plug the album here. Album?
Yeah.
Well, plug this, man.
It's called Difference, but it's spelled. It's called. I'll set you boys up after, obviously. But Difference is the album on Apple Music. Difference.
Okay.
And it's like 2014 stuff like that. So obviously the stuff's outdated, but
time to come back, man. It's this comeback season. You gotta come back. You gotta create the anthem for the Sea Bears. They need the hype video with Alex Campbell laying the track.
We'll take a new intro for the podcast too. So
yeah, you want to make a Target Score Weekly intro? We're all for that.
I'll do this. Tap in, listen to it first, and then you guys let me know. If we're getting it done or not. If we're gonna jump into business or not.
All right, done. And with that, we conclude Target Time. All right, Alex, man, thank you so much for making the time. I know you have practice coming up, so appreciate you taking the time this morning to get this done. Good luck this weekend against Ottawa and the rest of the season, and congratulations. 1,000 points in the CEBL, first Canadian to do it. No one else can say that. So congratulations on the big moment, and I'm happy you were able to do it in front of the fans here in Winnipeg.
Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate it, man.
That was CEBL veteran and CEBL 1,000-point getter, Alex Campbell. Very exciting finish to that game, Taylor, as we talked about. And I think many hoping that it sets the tone for the season to come.
But where's the ball? You know, where did the ball go?
You know what I'm
thinking?
Over this. You know what it reminds me of? Do you remember that CFL story? Was it the Mud Bowl or whatever? Like way back in the day, where a fan goes on the field, steals the football, and they had to call the game because they had no balls. This is what I feel like is the CEBL equivalent. This is going to be the mystery that we have to get down to. So now the mysteries that we have to now investigate as Target Score Weekly. What happened to the CEBL trophy at Drake's house? And where is the game ball for Alex Campbell's 1,000th point? And we have to try and push Teddy Allen to get that diss track going. Maybe Alex Campbell and him can collab. Maybe it becomes the new Sea Bears anthem. Maybe we get an intro. So much can happen from here. This has been a very innovative and, I think resourceful episode for us.
My fear is the ball just went back on the ball rack, lost in the shuffle, and no one knows which ball it is.
You know what?
It would be so sad.
I'm just going to go there, take it. Which one looks more worn? Take that. Call it the 1,000th ball. Just give him a ball. Give him a ball. Write 1,000 on it. I think we're all going to be good. But if we can find the ball, if there's a fan out there that stormed and happened to get the ball when no one was looking, maybe we got to talk to the referees. Maybe we need an internal investigation. Get to the bottom of this eventually. But no, he was a great interview. I was glad to have him. Sea Bears continue their season. Saturday, they play the Ottawa Blackjacks, who are off to a bit of a rough start, 0-2 to start the season, missing some players. Good opportunity here for the Sea Bears to kind of further solidify. They will be the favorites in this game. And they have a bit of a precedence now to make up after the last game. So I'm sure people will be excited to have a 20-point win as opposed to a come from behind target score win after a couple of botched foul shots by the opposition. But nonetheless, this is exciting. I think people now have seen the worst of it and see what the best of it can look like when they click. So we'll see if that happens. Taylor, pleasure as always. We'll see you next week, my friend.
You bet. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Target Score Weekly podcast. To stay up to date with Winnipeg Sea Bears and CEBL news, as well as future episode releases, follow Joey and Taylor on Twitter and Instagram.
at Taylor Allen 31, and at Joey Slattery TV. And wherever you're getting the podcast, be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.